Hey man, did you wanna like, did we do an intro?
We didn't do a intro.
Okay. No one will notice.
Alright, so I forgot to do an intro to this haircut, but we're gonna just redo it, alright?
Yeah, let's do
just
it.
redo it. So we're gonna do a low, bald, drop fade, side part haircut. So come on over. See what I mean? I forgot to do an intro.
You also left him in the spot.
Alright guys, so right now we're gonna, I slicked the entire hair back, just wetted it down thoroughly all throughout. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna set in our baseline guide. The baseline guide pretty much is what's gonna separate the top from the bottom, and it's also gonna connect the bottom to the top. And it's also gonna pretty much be my standard point of not to go past that. That's gonna be my guide to not go past that once we set that in. It's our model Ben, by the way. So
Hi, model Ben.
Say hi, Ben.
Hello.
Okay. There you go. All right. So we're gonna start sectioning the hair off right now. So I'm gonna use pretty much the front part of the temple area as my guide to separate the top from the bottom. And we're gonna pretty much just do a horizontal parting. And once we start coming to the back of the crown, we're gonna start dropping that parting down to follow the natural shape of the head. Just like so. Oh, I'm gonna clean it up a little bit. There you go. All right. Chair.
Remember, PG. This is YouTube approved for kids.
Well, this video might have a lot of swearing in it, so I'm just gonna forewarn you guys. So if swearing offends you, then you do not want to watch this video.
Well, you're about to. I'll bleep you.
Well, there we go. That works.
Natural bleeping.
Jesus Christ. All right. So there we go. So pull all the hair out to a 90-degree angle. Come towards the front. Can you see all right?
A little bit. We can see it, kinda.
And as you can see, I start tilting the angle of my comb as I start going towards the back of the occipital. Come up underneath my guide. First guide comb we're going to use is the number 2, taper lever closed. So we're going to just go straight up. God. Flimsy ear.
Yeah.
Shirt. Shut up.
It's better that his ear's flimsy instead of stiff.
That's true. Oh, the stiff ear?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really bad.
Yep.
It's almost like cutting on a mannequin head.
That's your favorite thing to do.
No, it's not. I hate mannequin heads. Shit, he's not wearing a mask.
Oh no. I think we're all gonna die.
Oh, you're good, dude.
Look, I checked my temperature before I got here with the anal thermometer. I'm thoroughly good.
I am not wearing a mask either. Do you feel? Are you okay with that, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay.
You feel you're morally gonna die? Or
I've
ethically?
been, you know what's so funny is, I mean, I've been vaccinated so much by the military from my time in the Army. I guarantee you, I cannot get any virus that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bet you I'm susceptible to not contracting the AIDS virus.
I believe it. You're like super sterile and sanitary. You're sweating Lysol.
I know, right?
Imagine if that was a problem, sweating Lysol.
Oh yeah.
You're like, no, I sweat Lysol. You'd be hired everywhere right now.
The chirp go off again?
It's still, dude, it's your best friend.
That chirp, dude. By the end of this shoot, that chirping is going to be like normal to me. I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
When I go home and I don't hear any chirping, I'm probably going to go nuts. All right, so we're going to go in with our magic clip, but it has a balding blade on it that you can get on the 5-star wall balding clipper. I just kind of Frankenstein this clipper. So what we're going to do is now underneath that too, I'm going to start doing I'm going to bald out my first initial guideline for our low bald fade drop, our low drop fade bald, our low bald drop fade.
You sure you got that one?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Got it. You could also go in with a trimmer and do the same thing. I typically don't like using a trimmer because I feel like it adds too much stress to the trimmer. But what I always like to say, it's pretty much it's shooter preference, whatever you prefer to do. I prefer to go in with a balding clipper because the motor can handle it probably a little bit better than using a trimmer. So right when I made that initial guideline, I'm going to go in with the Wall 5-star finale, and I'm just going to start balding in that initial guideline. Chirp.
Gotta love this shit. That's magical. Kind of reminds me of a dog crapping, the look they give you.
Yeah, I'm good at that look.
I'm good at that look. Okay, so so just above the bald line that we did, the bald line. So just above the initial guideline where I balded out, I'm gonna go in with the cordless magic clip, clipper blade open, and I'm gonna set in another initial guideline to start our fade. This guideline is gonna be about a 1/2 inch. So like so, that's what it looks like. And I'm gonna come back to that line a little bit later. I'm gonna skip a step. So I'm gonna go in now with the number 1 attachment guide comb, lever closed. And I'm gonna go just above that first guideline, that second guideline we just made. Well, actually first guideline. Here we go. I'm jumping this. I'm jumping another step. So we did the number 1 closed. Now I'm gonna go in with the number 1 1/2 attachment guide comb, taper lever open. And we're gonna go just right here at this bold line. The dark line. Yeah. All right, so now we're gonna start fading down. I'm gonna skip this line altogether. I'm gonna come back up. Like I'm just kind of all over the map.
Yeah.
Honestly, right now I'm just I'm gonna do this haircut. We're gonna see how it turns out at the very end.
It's exciting.
Right now, normally when I do haircuts, I already have like a mental picture of how it's gonna look.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know what it's gonna look like.
Hear that, Ben?
That's the concern. You probably should have a concerned look on your face.
It's experiment.
All right, so we're gonna go in with the 1/16 inch, ½ inch attachment guide comb, wall, premium guard. And I'm gonna take the taper lever and I'm gonna start closing it halfway. All right, we're gonna start rubbing out. We're gonna start rubbing out this line right here that we made with the number 1 closed.
Do I need an innuendo count as well?
Actually, no. I'm gonna start it open. All right, you should always start the clipper open. I'm gonna start it open, and once I start like not seeing it cut hair, I'm gonna slowly start closing it. All right, here we go. I'm gonna go open. And I'm just gonna start cornering, not using all the teeth on the clipper. Always making sure that I look at the direction of the hair growth. I'm not the best fader when it comes to barbering, so if you're thinking you're gonna get a blurry airbrush fade, you do not want to watch this video. All right, so now we're gonna go.
No, you did that before the video.
Yeah, I did. Okay, so this 1.5 line right here, we're gonna go in with the number 1 attachment guide comb, taper lever open. Once it starts well, we're hoping it's gonna cut hair at the 1 open, but it probably isn't. So if I notice that, then I'll slowly start closing out the taper lever. This is the line right here that we're gonna be working on. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna start rubbing out this really, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not really a bold line. Can you see it from there? Can you see that line right there?
A little bit.
Okay, so guys, there's like a little line right here, and just underneath that line we balded everything out. So now I'm gonna start going through and I'm gonna start rubbing that line out. Rubbing. All right. Clipper blade open. More than likely, we're gonna start closing it as we go. Actually, I'm gonna close it now, just a touch. And I'm gonna start cornering it. Flicking out with that C-stroke motion. Or what Dr. Dre said in one of his old music videos, hit the oh no, that was Ice Cube, hit the 3-roll motion. But we're gonna start using the C-stroke motion. All right, so we're back from the break. Had to go to the little boys' room. Actually I didn't. So the same process that we did on the opposite side, which is the left side, we're gonna repeat the exact same process on the right side. Making sure that we have, and the chirp is still going. We're gonna make sure that the entire haircut is symmetrical. We're going for a squared shaped haircut, guys. And I don't know if I said this earlier, but did I say, I don't know if I said it, but we're doing a low ball drop fade side part haircut.
Now you said it.
I didn't say the side part. I just said we were doing a low ball drop fade.
You're doing it.
But,
You're doing the one drop.
all right, here we go. Wall 5-star cordless senior.
Ooh. So
Great for cutting wet hair and dry hair. Clipper blade closed, clipper over comb. We're gonna set in our guideline. Like I said, the exact same process we did on the left side, we're gonna do on the right. I'm just gonna use a different clipper.
Would you say that clipper is a super clip?
Yep. Pulling all the hair out to a 90-degree angle. I know you can't see me.
But hearing you describe it, it's like an audiobook. Today's haircut, written by Corey Ho.
Yep.
Read by Corey Ho.
So now what we're gonna do is we got like all the bottom stuff done, the boring stuff. Like fading to me is boring. And it's time consuming, we all know that. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start connecting the top layers down to the bottom layers. I'm gonna show you guys how you find your natural hair part, especially if you're gonna do a side part. All right, so as you guys can see, the haircut is pretty symmetrical on both sides. Square, square. And this is gonna be square as well. All right, so to find your natural part. So what I like to do is I like to slick all the hair back. All right, and as you guys can see, this is a pretty universal haircut. You can slick it back, or you could put a part in it, or you could do like a pompadour kind of a style haircut if you wanted to. It's just however you style it and however you see fit. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put in his natural part. So what I like to do is right here in the very corner of the temple, right when you get that triangulation, you go 45 degrees from that point. And you're gonna go to the highest point of the crown, because that's where the hairline starts. That's where the cowlick is. We all have cowlicks, people. All right, and the most important part about a cowlick, especially on a man, the crown area, you never compromise the crown, especially on a man's haircut. You could take bulk out of it, but you gotta be super careful the way you do it, all right? If you're gonna cut a cowlick, you cut it all the way off. You do not just take chunks out of it, because if you do that, then you're gonna get this, all right? And to avoid getting this, especially in the cowlick area, you need to have this. This is that support system for that cowlick, for that crown. All right? So now we're gonna do the natural part. So slick the hair back. What I like to do is I kind of like to shake up the crown area and see where his hairline is and see the direction of the hair growth. So I'm gonna go 45 from that, from this area to the highest point of the crown. There's that shirt. Again.
It's your best friend.
I hate that thing. We're in an abandoned barber shop.
You're here.
Kind of broke into it.
You know the guy, so is it really breaking?
That's true, I do know the guy. All right, so taking all that hair and bringing it back down, because now you can start seeing that there's going to be some overlap. Chirp. Get that chirp count going.
Absolutely, man.
I'm pretty OCD when it comes to putting in parts and sections, so this might take a little while. So we got to connect all that down to the baseline guide that we set on both sides of the haircut. So this is what it should look like. Kind of has like a George McFly haircut right now from Back to the Future, the very first one.
Poor George.
And I'm gonna use my shears. So, I'm gonna go up underneath, start pulling everything out. All right, as you guys can see, there's my first guideline that I made earlier. And now I'm going to connect. Pull everything out. Now if I wanted to, could I have done this with my clippers? Absolutely I could. There's no difference between a pair of clippers and a pair of shears. They both drop hair. And they both open and close. Clippers do the exact same thing, guys. Just one has more teeth than the other. All right, so here's a little trick that, especially when you're doing a haircut like this, or if you're gonna do like a slick back style haircut, or if you're gonna do like a pompadour style haircut, especially on men's hair. All right here towards the temple, you're always gonna kind of keep that a little bit more triangular. You're gonna keep it longer towards the front, and you're gonna keep it going shorter towards the back. So as you can see, we still have that little bit of overhang just right here, but this is where you do have to still connect down to that baseline guide that we made earlier. All right, and then once I start getting towards the front, then that's when I'm gonna abandon that guide. And you can get pretty creative once you start getting towards the front of the temple. All right, so now we're back. The battery died. All right, so now what we're gonna do, we connected that. So I'm gonna pull all this cool hair out. And now we're gonna abandon that guide that we set. So I'm gonna kind of tilt my fingers. I'm gonna kind of like tilt them downward so I have more graduation towards the front. And I want to kind of keep this as long as I possibly can, so I'm only just trimming off just a tad bit. And if I wanted to, I could point cut in this area if I was going to do more of a textured kind of a styled haircut. And plus my model Ben, he likes his hair generally pretty long.
Yep.
Somewhat.
I won't tell anybody.
His mom doesn't. So now we're gonna go in with, and then you can like,
Yeah, I'm gonna go on with that.
All right guys, so now that you see I like thoroughly dried the hair all throughout, the most important part is now this is where I really just kind of start to finish my haircut, or pretty much just kind of start my haircut. Because as you can see, looking all throughout the hair, I have a lot of bulky areas that I need to focus on. So I have to blend all this long hair right here. I have to blend this down into this. And then I have a lot of bulk up here that I need to take out as well. And then on the part on the side that actually just kind of combs back, when you style it, you can see there's a lot of bulky areas in here. The way I like to do it, I like to go in with my blending shears. A lot of people call them thinning shears. I call them blending shears. There is a difference between a blending shear and a texturizing shear. Blending shears are actually, the teeth are a little bit closer together, where texturizing shears, the teeth are actually spaced out more. So I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna start removing a bunch of bulk, blending the top down to the bottom. If I wanted to, I could use a feather razor to do that as well. I could go in with my all-in-one blade that Wall makes, and you can use that all-in-one blade on the Big Mag, and you can use it on the Chrome Style Pro. I'm gonna go in with my blending shears and just start removing a bunch of bulk.
Do it.
All right, so the way you do it, pull all the hair out, and you're gonna start seeing lines. And once you start seeing those lines, all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take that bulk out at the very end of the hair follicle. And I'm pretty much gonna do shear over comb. And then just start taking that line out. So now we're gonna start taking bulk out of the top. And I'm just gonna pull everything up to 90 and just lighten it. Just lighten the ends. Essentially just kind of like, creating a line, but it's more of a, kind of a chopped up line. It's not gonna be a solid straight blunt line. This is probably the most important part of a haircut. A lot of barbers tend to not do this, you know, and then you get that client when he goes home, you know, he leaves the shop, his hair is just, it's wet, or they just slather a bunch of hair gel in their hair and just kick them out of the chair and send them on their way. But when the client goes home, takes a shower, gets his hair dry, he starts seeing inconsistencies throughout the haircut. That's why it's super important, it's super essential. Before you kick the model or the client out of your chair, make sure the hair is dry, all right? You know, have some pride in your work. There's more to cutting hair, guys, than there is the fading. I've had my model here pretty much ever since the very beginning I started cutting hair, and you know, I'll ask him myself, like, you know, do you honestly care about your fade?
That's the right answer.
He actually has to think about it. That's not a good thing. 9 times out of 10, he does not care about the fade, I guarantee it. He just cares aesthetically if it's a good haircut. That's all he cares about.
Yeah, I definitely care more about that.
He cares about the overall haircut. 9 times out of 10, a lot of people, when they come into your shop, they don't care how the fade looks. They just want a fade, but they don't know exactly probably what a fade is. You know, and then once you ask them what a fade is, they're like, oh, I want like a 2 into like a 3. Generally, a 2 into a 3 is not really a fade, all right? If you really want a fade, it's like a 1 going into like a 2 or a 3, or it's like a 0 going into a 3 or a 2. That's what a fade is when you can see that transition going from short to long, all right? Most times, a lot of times when clients come into the shop, they don't care about how the fade looks, unless they actually show you a picture and they're like, oh, I want that fade. But then when you look at that fade, you can tell it was really photoshopped. You know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But I'm lucky, none of my clients ever do that. So,
Photoshop?
They never come and sit in my chair and show me pictures of haircuts. They never do.
I try not to do that. I feel like that's an insult. It's like going to a painter. I want you to paint this, please.
Well, it's kind of the same thing if you were to go to a tattoo artist and you show him somebody else's work.
Yeah, exactly.
And people do it.
Like, you know, I like all your stuff, but I like this stuff better.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
well then go to that person.
Exactly.
All right, so now I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna just start cleaning up the haircut. I'm gonna go in with the cordless magic clip again. The cool thing about the cordless magic clip is if I start seeing any more bulky areas throughout this haircut, I can go back through and then I can just start using the stagger tooth blade, which is gonna actually add texture, which is also great for bulk removal at the same time. And I'm just gonna go through and find any inconsistencies in the haircut, and I'm just gonna start cleaning it up. So now what we're gonna do is, obviously you guys can see it's pretty blended. All right, we took out quite a bit of bulk. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn my blow dryer on the cold setting, and we're gonna start blow drying it, and we're gonna lock in that hold. We're gonna lock in that finish, and that's what happens when I first blow dried it. I used hot temperature. Now we're gonna go in with cold, and we're gonna lock in the follicle so we don't get any movement. All right guys, so that's pretty much what the haircut should look like when it's dried, blow dried, styled. I didn't put any product in it other than a volumizer. That's it. So, you should always finish your haircut dry. Let your clients see what it looks like dry and what it looks like when it's like blow dried and styled. Then put product in it. Then kick them out of your chair and tell them to get the f out of the shop. No, I'm just playing. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys dig the haircut. This is what it looks like without any product in it, just blow dried.